Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Welcome to my monthly video on the best games coming to retail, where I pick 25 or so of the best games hitting retail options near you. Friendly local game stores, online marketplaces, publishers' websites. There are so many ways to get these games. This is also the first month that this video is being sponsored by Game Toppers, because I have a Game Topper. Oh, I feel real good about it. Thank you, Game Toppers, for sponsoring this video and sending me a Game Topper. This is the first time I've ever had a dedicated game table. I feel like a real gamer. I'm like Pinocchio. I'm a real boy. Everybody. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Game Toppers is great because they are... They just are adaptable. You know, I'm in an apartment in Los Angeles without a lot of space, and so this is something I can move around really easily. But more importantly, a lot of great games coming out in May. These are the best games coming to retail. I hope you find something you're excited about. Arcane Wonders is releasing the game Dubious. This is a lighter weight deduction game, and in the game, each player has an occupation and a secret, and you will all have to answer a series of questions with some storytelling. So nobody knows what your occupation and your secret is, but you have to answer these questions by staying in the pocket of your character. And then everybody else is going to guess after a certain number of questions who is what occupation and what's their secret. You know, an occupation might be like you're a baker, you bake bread, and your secret might be like you rob the tax collector. Ooh, you're a baker that's a bad guy, you know? You make a sweet French roll, but also you're a minion of the Dark Lord. You know, that sort of thing. That's what we're trying to guess here. It plays in 30 minutes. It plays 3 to 6 players. And, you know, it's the Dixit style scoring where you need some people to guess what you are, but if everybody guesses what you are, you've been too obvious and you get no points, sir. So that is Dubious from Arcane Wonders. Arcane Wonders is also releasing Mother of Frankenstein, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. These hit Barnes & Noble exclusively last month, but now they are having a wider release here in May. Mother of Frankenstein is a escape room style game. In fact, it's actually was designed by the people who designed LA Magazine's top-ranked escape room Lab Rat. So this is designed by people who design full escape room rooms, and now this is a game. It's a volume 1, 2, and 3 because there is a storyline that takes you through the whole thing. So you'll be solving puzzles and riddles and trying to figure out things, but there's also a real narrative that goes through the game. That's what sort of sets it apart from other escape room style games, is this full narrative. It's a 10 to 15 hour experience, so there's a lot of story here. And, you know, it's broken up into volume 1, 2, and 3. Those are different boxes, but you need all of them if you want to experience the whole story. You know, you can just play volume 1, but you won't know what happened. This is based off of Mary Shelley, who is the person that wrote Frankenstein back in the 1800s, so it's inspired by her incredible real life. It says it's not entirely beholden to the details of her life, but it is inspired by her. So if you are a fan of escape room style games, puzzle style games, and you want some more narrative in yours, then check out Mother of Frankenstein. Asmodee, in association with Awaken Realms, is releasing The Great Wall to retail. This had a very, very successful Kickstarter a couple of years ago and fulfilled to all its backers a while ago, but now it's having its retail release for the first time. Just like most of Awaken Realms games, this is a big box game and a big strategy game. This is a heavyweight game for sure, and plays 1 to 4 players in 120 to 180 minutes. It's an asymmetric worker placement game that has engine building themes and a twist in the form of constantly attacking hordes. So it is not a cooperative game. You are trying to defend the Great Wall to the best of your ability and score points, but there is some cooperative aspects of the game because there are these hordes that are attacking you, and if you don't work together with other players, you aren't going to successfully defend the Great Wall. You aren't going to successfully defeat the attacking hordes. So you want to, work together sometimes, but also make sure you come out of the battles the best way. You want to be the most successful of anybody playing the game. So you take on the role of generals defending the walls, and there is some asymmetric aspects to the clans that you are playing in the game. So, a lot of replayability, a lot of different stuff to explore in the game. Yeah. So, awesome miniatures and all of that sort of stuff. So if you're a fan of production value, it really looks great on the table, and it's having its retail release for the first time. Asmodee and CMON are releasing Masters of the Universe, the board game Clash for Eternia. This is based on the Masters of the Universe IP, He-Man, Grayskull, all of that sort of stuff. I'm actually a little bit too young to really grow up on He-Man, but I know my older brother loved He-Man. So if you were a fan of the Masters of the Universe IP, I've heard from a lot of people online that this does it justice. If you like it, you'll definitely like this. But you can also get into the game even if you're not a huge Masters of the Universe fan. It's accessible to a lot of people. Plays 1 to 5 players in about an hour. It is a one versus many game, or it can be fully cooperative against an AI, or even solo against an AI. But one of the cool things about it is most one versus many games, there's a set sort of one side and a set many side. Well, in this game, you can actually choose. The one can either be the good guys or the bad guys, and then the many can be either the bad guys or the good guys. So you can switch it up. You can have one person controlling a bunch of bad guys. You can have one person controlling a bunch of good guys and fighting against everybody else. So I think that's pretty interesting. That's different for a one versus many game. It has a grid board system, and you will be leveling up your characters and getting unique abilities and fighting. That's the main thing. You're moving around the board, you're fighting each other and using your special abilities and your upgraded skills that you earn throughout the game. So it uses dice rolling and character stats to move. So, dice rolling, there's lots of ways to mitigate the dice in the game, but, dice rolling does inherently have some level of luck into it. So, yeah, if you're just a big fan of combat, this one is pretty easy to get into. It's a medium weight game, but almost on the, less complex side of medium weight, I would say. And so it's one that you can play with new gamers, with casual gamers, that sort of stuff. And you just get to be He-Man and beat up on stuff. Hey, that's fun. I always thought He-Man, it's weird how much we love that name. It's the laziest superhero name ever. It's a man. It's a he. It's a He-Man. Okay, well, that creative meeting lasted all of 30 seconds. That's great. Move on to the next thing. CMON and Asmodee are also releasing to retail this month Stranger Things Upside Down. In this game, you are playing as the role of the kids in Hawkins. So this is, very much a thematic Stranger Things game. So if you like Stranger Things, I'm sure you'll like this more than just a random person. It's 1 to 4 players, plays in about an hour, and is a lighter weight game. And so it's a fully cooperative game. You are all playing as the kids, and you are, you're working to stop the operatives of the Hawkins National Laboratory and the evils from the Upside Down. There's some really cool miniatures in the game, especially some of the bad guy miniatures in it look really, really cool in it. Just the creatures in it, that's what excites me about it for sure. In the game, you are working together to clear stacks of tokens before time runs out. One thing that made me notice this game is it's designed by Rob Daviau, who is a very well-known designer from things like Pandemic Legacy, Cthulhu Death May Die, the Unmatched series, does a lot of Restoration Games' games now, Return to Dark Tower, things like that. So while it may be an IP that, you're not super stoked about, it is from a designer who has a long pedigree, and so I'm sure the game is pretty good because he's involved. Asmodee and Matago are releasing the game Yucatan. This is a 2 to 4 player game, plays in 90 minutes, and it is a medium weight game. In the game, you are the leader of a Mayan city, and you have promised your people to win the favor of the gods. So I've been to the Yucatan multiple times on vacation and seen a lot of the old Mayan ruins, and it is pretty amazing how much human sacrifice there was at certain points during the Mayan Empire. And so in this game, you are trying to capture prisoners and then sacrifice them to gain favor from the gods. You will be ritually sacrificing captured enemies to gain reputation. So, a bit of a dark theme, but also a historical theme here. It is, everybody is controlling a different city-state in the game, and so you will be fighting other city-states and trying to get prisoners and sacrifice those prisoners. So you can end up, getting some special abilities from gods and things like that in the game. This is also one thing of note, is that it is the new game in the series with Kemet and Innis and Cyclades. This is the 4th game in that series. And so if you were a fan of Kemet, this is definitely one to check out. It is meant to be a little bit lighter and quicker to get into. The fact that it plays in 90 minutes is faster than a lot of those other games in the series. So it's meant to be like a quicker game to get into than some of the other ones that came before it in that series. So check it out, Yucatan. Asmodee and Thundergriff Games are releasing the game Tuned. Tuned is a 2-player only game, plays in about 20 minutes. It is an abstract game with a fun, silly theme. You are trying to get your animal band in order. You have a chicken, you have 2 dogs, you have 2 donkeys, you have 2 cats. Sorry, it's a rooster, not a chicken. Don't you call me a chicken. That's the rooster in my head was like, how dare you? It's a rooster. But you are, what you can do on your turn is you move your rooster, and your rooster allows you to take either a move action or add a figure action. So you will be moving figures along on this grid. It's a 3x3 grid, and you'll be moving your figures around and then adding figures to it. And you can stack figures on top of other figures. You can place a dog on top of a donkey. You can place a cat on top of a dog. So it gets silly looking like that. And to win, you just have to be the first player to create an orthogonal or diagonal row with 3 of the same animals on top. You need to get 3 of the same animals on top, and then you have the best animal band. Good job. Bitewing Games, in association with Allplay, is releasing the game Trailblazers, and I just want to note that this is most likely coming out at the end of May, but could slide into early June. They just wanted me to know that. So if you can't find it in May, it might be sliding into June, but they're hoping that it'll be out by the end of May, so I decided to include it in this month's video. Trailblazers is designed by Ryan Courtney, who's known for games like Curious Cargo, which are pretty heavyweight path building games. Well, Trailblazers is meant to be a lighter weight, a more accessible path building game. So in the game, it's got a camping theme, and in the game, you are building loops. You can build biking loops, hiking loops, kayaking loops, and there's a push your luck aspect because the larger your loop, the more points you're going to score, but also the less likely you're going to finish a loop, because if you don't finish a loop and get back to your campsite, it's going to score no points. So you want to do you want to push your luck and try to build bigger, or do you want to make sure that you close the loop and score some points? In the game, you are going to be drafting cards. You get dealt 8 cards, you draft 2, and you pass them around, and then you'll place them into your own grid system, your own card grid system. One of the interesting things about it too, the standard edition features a second deck, and so you can play the game up to 8 players, but there's also a little travel version of the game that plays 4 players, but it comes in an interesting hard case, so it is something you can take camping with you and things like that. So there are different sort of versions of the game based on what you're looking for. Do you want it in a box where you can play 8 players? Do you want it in a carrying case where you can take it into the wilderness? And again, like I said, it's a little bit more of an accessible, path building loop game than something like Curious Cargo. Plays in 30 minutes. Buffalo Games is releasing Starry Night Sky. In this game, you are discovering stars in constellations as you move your telescope across the night sky. This is a lightweight game that plays ages 10 and up, so if you're looking for a family game, a very pretty one at that, then check out Starry Night Sky. Plays in 30 to 45 minutes for 2 to 4 players. And in the game, it's pretty simple. You're just moving around, scoring points for discovering new constellations, and then using stars to fill in those constellations. But sometimes you can't fill in everything. You'll get points for dropping some stars off at the constellation, but you might not have all of the stars in your supply to fill a constellation. So then the next player can come along and fill in that constellation and gets points as well. So it's a big board with a lot of different constellations, and you're just moving around, getting stars, checking out stars, looking at stars, feeling good because there's no light pollution and you can actually see the stars. I saw the Milky Way once here in Los Angeles. Boy, that was a good night. Capstone Games is releasing City Planner. This is one of the games in their new Nano Games series. So they are going to be releasing 9 games in this Nano Games series, and this is the second one, I believe. And the whole idea is very small games with limited components. So in City Planner, there are literally 9 cards, 9 cubes, and 9 dice. That's it. That's what's in the whole game. It plays 1 to 2 players, plays in 10 to 20 minutes. It is in the game, you'll have all these different cards, and the cards have, they represent a city, and they have a lot of different things. They have residential buildings, they have commercial buildings, they have industrial buildings, they have cultural buildings, all different sort of buildings, and you'll be rolling dice and placing dice on different buildings to activate them to get money, to get victory points, to get different things. And if you're playing a solo game, you're just trying to beat your score. But if you are playing a 2-player game, then you can be locking certain spots and forcing the next player to take that spot, to take that action. So yeah, it's the game ends after 8 rounds, and again, it's just a little small game that you can take with you easily and play. If you like puzzly type games, then City Planner might be for you. Oh, I also want to take a moment to note that Beer and Bread is back in stock from Capstone Games too. Not a new release game this month. I'm not going to get into it a bunch, but it's a game that has sold out and has been pretty popular. So if you've been looking for it, you can get it again this month. Beer and Bread, good 2-player game. Flying Leap Games is releasing the party game How to Lose a Guy in 1DM. And full disclosure, full transparency, I wrote a bunch of the content in the game. And so that's why I have to include it in here, because I believe in myself, okay? If you want a funny party game style thing, this is that. It is definitely similar to a game like Cards Against Humanity, but it builds more of a narrative story, and it's got more of a theme to it than a game like Cards Against Humanity. So in the game, you are revealing a profile on a dating app. You're revealing things about them. They have a bio. You can learn things about them. Then you receive an inappropriate DM from them, and you have to decide what DM you want to use to respond. And all of the DMs you're responding with are clapbacks, they're ways to shut down the creepy dude, that sort of thing. And then one player picks the best of any of the DM cards that players have played. So this is obviously a very relatable theme. A lot of women, unfortunately, deal with creepy messages online. And if you're a guy and you're like, what? No guys actually do that? Well, then I bet you've probably done that before. It is unfortunately a thing that happens a bunch. And so if you want a thematic version of the judge choosing type of game, or if you've had these types of experiences online, this game definitely speaks to you. And I try not to be a creep online, but it was pretty interesting writing some fake creepy messages here for the game. I got to let loose for sure. Funko Games is releasing the game Star Wars Rivals. This is an expandable card game that has a bunch of adorable little collectible miniature figures. So there is a game here, but one of the selling aspects, the things that would make you interested, is definitely those collectible figurines. There's a toy factor to the game for sure. The premiere set, the Series 1 set, the game that they're launching with, includes Luke Skywalker, Commander Cody versus Darth Vader and Asajj Ventress. So each of those characters has their own unique action cards, so they can do different things. You can use them in different ways, and the goal of the game is to try to claim location cards. If you can win a certain number of location cards, you will win the game. And as I mentioned, it is an expandable card game, so one player will always be playing the light characters, one player is playing the dark characters in this two-player game. But you can buy more characters to add to the game, and then you get to set your deck beforehand. You get to pick your characters and build your team essentially before you play the game. So the more characters, the more expansion pack sort of things you get, the more characters you'll have to choose from to make each game customizable. So if you're a big fan of Star Wars stuff, this is definitely up your alley. Plays in like 20 minutes and says ages 7 and up. So it's a family weight game for sure. And, again, collectible figurines, and then you can customize and create your own teams and squadrons for when you play it in the future. Gap Closer Games is releasing the game Illiterati to retail this month. This is a fast-paced cooperative word game. So you will be spelling words, but it is cooperative, so you can be like, hey, does anybody have a B? I need a B. And then someone can toss you one of their letter tiles because you are trying to create some words. And the more letters you have that are unused as a whole, as a team, you're going to have to burn those letters out of the game. And if you burn too many letters, you're going to lose the game. And also, it's going to leave you with less letters to spell stuff in previous rounds. But that's not it. It's not just fast-paced spelling. You also have these cards, you have these book cards, and you are trying to fulfill objectives. So I might say, like, mine might say, I need to make letters, I need to make words that are animals. So I am now trying to figure out how to use my letters to spell things like cat and zebra and stuff like that. And there's oftentimes a goal with that. It's not just spell animal words, it's spell animal words and use at least 8 of your letters doing so. And so we all have to finish those objectives. But it's not that easy. This is a game where it's the Illiterati, you know, sort of like the Illuminati, and so there are bad guys that are going to attack you at different points in the game and do stuff like, if you have a 4-letter word, you have to get rid of one of your letters, you know, or something like that. They're going to mess you up at times during the game. Each round, you get 3 minutes, so you are trying to figure out how to spell words as a team, you know, 3 minutes, but each player has their own set of letter tiles and is spelling their own set of words. So it's not like we're all just doing it in the center. We're each doing our own thing, but then asking for help from our teammates. Plays 1 to 5 players in 40 minutes. If you like spelling games, word games, this is a unique take on that. And also, you know, a lot of spelling word games are competitive. This is a nice cooperative experience here. Greater Than Games, in association with Flat River Group, is releasing Horizons of Spirit Island. So Spirit Island is a very popular cooperative game that came out a number of years ago that sort of flipped the colonialism theme on its head. It was, instead of playing as people trying to conquer an island, you were playing as spirits of the island trying to defeat invaders. And it was really refreshing in terms of how it flipped the script on that theme. Well, Horizons of Spirit Island is meant to be a more accessible version of Spirit Island. Spirit Island is a big, complex game that is not easy to get into by any means. Well, Horizons of Spirit Island is still not a lightweight game. It is currently a 3.5 in weight complexity on BGG. So again, you know, still more of that high, medium to heavy range, but it's got an easier setup in the game. There are 5 new spirits that are designed to be ideal for those playing Spirit Island game for the first time. So, you know, it has a streamlined setup, all of that sort of stuff. So again, it's just easier to jump into. It's easier to get it to the table. So if you're a fan of Spirit Island, but you haven't felt like you could introduce it to as many people as you wanted to because of the complexity, well, Horizons of Spirit Island is definitely meant for you. It's 1 to 3 players and plays in 90 to 120 minutes. The new spirits, just so you know, if you are a fan of Spirit Island, the new spirits are compatible with all existing Spirit Island components, but if you want to play with expansions, you need a copy of Spirit Island itself. So yeah, if you want to jump into this fun, cooperative, and still thinky and heavy game, Horizons of Spirit Island. Le Boîte de Jeu, in association with Hachette, is releasing the game Tribes of the Wind. In the game, you are going to plant forests, build villages, temples, decontaminate surrounding areas. All of that is well and good, but what makes the game different, the unique aspect of the game, is you are playing cards, but some of the cards you can only play based on the backs of the cards of the players next to you. So it might say you have to have more fire cards than these 2 players to play your card. And so you don't know what cards they have, but the backs of them are, you know, wind and fire and earth and things like that. So you need to look at the backs of the cards here. Sometimes you can play a card where it's just like you need to have more than one of the players next to you and you get this one ability. But if you have more than both players next to you, you get an even better ability. So, you know, that's a very unique thing. I haven't seen that in a game before where you're having to look at the backs of players' cards around you. When someone builds their 5th village, the game end is triggered. So, you know, it's the normal sort of building stuff in a game, but that backs of cards makes it very different. It is a medium weight game, plays 2 to 5 players, and plays in 40 to 90 minutes. Tribes of the Wind. Studio H, in association with Hachette, is releasing Vivarium. This is a 2 to 4 player game, plays in 30 minutes, and it's a set collection game at its core. But what you're the artwork on the cards is really great. That's one of the things that really attracted me. It's all of these different characters, and they look really cool. You know, some people have compared it to sort of Pokemon style characters, but they are original characters in the game. And there is a grid of character cards that you can draft, that you can pick from. And the way you do that is also decently unique. You will have these domino tiles, literally they're like dominoes, and they have numbers on them, and you pick 2 tiles, and then that grid point is the card you take from. So, I'm going to do a 2 on this domino and a 3 on this domino. Well, then I go to the 2 column and the 3 row, and I'm going to take that card. And so how you select cards feels different, and, makes it feel like a cool component, right? You don't see dominoes mixed into just a different card game like this that often. You can score points for completing objectives, for collecting different, again, set collection, you get points for that. But the artwork and the dominoes are what sets this game apart for me. Studio H and Hachette are also releasing the game Vaalbara. This is another decently lightweight game. Plays 2 to 5 players in 20 minutes. Each player plays as a Neolithic clan leader, and you will be playing cards that represent members of your tribe and trying to settle and conquer and take over new areas. And so it does the thing that, we've seen in games before, where each card that you are deciding to play, we're all deciding simultaneously, and if you have a higher number, you get to pick first, but then sometimes, or is it a lower number? I don't know, I haven't played the game yet. But one side of the spectrum, you pick first, and then the other side of the spectrum, you get a better special ability, right? And so you are drafting these lands and scoring points for the lands, but it's about that intrigue of like, what are other people going to play? How can I outsmart you? How can I outthink you here? Because each player has the same deck of 12 cards representing members of their tribe. So how can you psych people out? Oh, you think I'm going for that, but I'm going for this because I'm good at this game. I tricked you. The game plays in 9 rounds, and whoever has the most points after 9 rounds wins the game. Cosmos is releasing a couple of games to retail this month, the first of which is Inside Job. And every year I release a most anticipated games of the year list, and this was my number 1 anticipated game because it combines social deduction with cooperative trick-taking, and I love the idea of that. I'm all the way in. It's like The Crew, from the same publisher of The Crew, where you are trying to complete missions by playing tricks and working together to play tricks. But it has a hidden traitor amongst your midst, and that hidden traitor doesn't have to play on suit. They can mess things up. But you're trying to guess who the hidden traitor is by the end of the game, so you can't be too obvious when you're messing things up in this game. You want to keep everybody from completing as many missions as possible, but you also don't want to get caught. And that's juicy to me. I love the idea of that. It is also, a lot of social deduction games take a long time. They drag out. This is a very quick version of a social deduction game. Very snappy. Plays in 20 to 30 minutes, 2 to 5 players. And yeah, if you want a sort of semi-cooperative version of The Crew, then check out Inside Job. The other game Cosmos is releasing to retail is My City Roll and Build. This is a roll and write version of their popular My City game. My City came out a few years ago, won a bunch of awards, and it was a family weight legacy game, which set it apart because a lot of legacy games are decently complex, and My City was a much lighter version of a legacy game where you were building out your city over a bunch of different play sessions, over a bunch of different scenarios. Well, Roll and Write, the roll and build version of My City, it maintains that sort of campaign style. There are 4 chapters to the game, and each chapter has 3 episodes, and you are building a unique city over the course of the game. So everybody rolls dice, and then that dice shows what you can build, what you can draw on your gamepad. And then from episode to episode, you face new challenges and other things. So, you know, it is still maintains that sort of family weight version campaign style game. Plays 1 to 6 players, and each game is 30 minutes. So if you really wanted My City, if you really loved My City, and you want a roll and write adaptation of the game, well, you got your wish. You wished for it, and your genie granted it. Here you go, roll and write version. Looney Labs is releasing Around the World Fluxx, which is a new version of their popular Fluxx line. If you don't know the Fluxx line, it's a card game line, all very small box card games, where the rules of the game change as you play it. The win conditions of the game change as you play it. So you never know what's the way you can win the game when you go into the game. Literally the cards you play will make new win conditions. So there are a lot of different versions of the Fluxx games, a lot of different themes, essentially. They all have the sort of core mechanism where you're playing a card and drawing a card, and that's it. But it can get a lot more wacky and different from there based on the cards that are in play. Around the World Fluxx is you are visiting famous landmarks across the globe. You can discover man-made wonders from Stonehenge to Taj Mahal. You can, there's a lot of just a lot of stuff from all over the world. They released a version across America Fluxx a couple of months ago, which were American landmarks, and now you have worldwide landmarks in your Fluxx game. Lucky Duck Games is releasing the game Nimalia. This is another smaller box card game, and it really surprised me. This is one that I have had a chance to play through, and it was a game that when they announced it, I was like, yeah, okay. It didn't get me that excited. And then I had a friend have me sit down and play it, and I was like, oh, this game's great. Like, this game is so much more than I thought it was going to be. Now, that being said, it is still a decently lightweight game, but there's just a lot of different scoring opportunities. There's a lot of different replayability because you will choose a certain set of scoring cards every game, and then you are drafting cards and building out your animal sanctuary. You are placing down, and so different games will have different things, like you score for polar bears being together, but any lone polar bear gets you negative points. And so you're trying to place your cards down in your grid to maximize your points, and you can't score for everything. So how are you going to score for certain things, and what are you going to go for? And like I said, there's a ton of different scoring cards in the game, so there's a lot of replayability here. You can mix and match all of the time and keep playing. Plays 2 to 4 players in 25 to 30 minutes. And it just, it looks cool on the table. You can only build a 6x6 grid, so by the end of the game, your choices are really hard because you're like, what am I going to cover up? I can't go further than this. I don't, it's really, if you like just a little card game, it's very fun and definitely one that surprised me and I want to play more of. Smirk and Dagger Games is releasing Behext. This is an unconventional deck building game of arcane combat. So it is a deck building game, but it's not a deck building game like most of them you've played because it sort of mixes hot potato into the game. someone will be casting a spell, and then that spell will be bouncing around from player to player. And so when you're playing cards, you are playing cards to sort of parry the hex away. And everybody will be trying to knock the hex around until somebody can't knock it around and it lands on them and they lose points. And so, it's different for a deck building game. And the cards that you're buying are to give you special abilities to not take hexes in the future. You don't want hexes. You want to be able to knock them onto somebody else. And so you are going to be making your deck stronger like a traditional deck building game, but all in the service of just not taking hexes. And, it makes it feel different in the deck building genre for sure, that you're hot potatoing these hexes with your cards. Skybound is releasing the party game Mr. Lovenstein Presents No Context. So this is a party game for 2 to 6 players, plays in 20 to 30 minutes, and it's using the art from the famous webcomic creator, Mr. Lovenstein? I don't know. But it is all artwork panels. So essentially each card is a panel from the webcomics, and they are all not associated with any other panel there. They're just random panels that are placed out. And so there are 7 targeted images. There are 7 images out, and then you will get assigned to one of those images, and you are trying to play cards to get other people to guess which image you are associated with. So you can play something that says like, I'm like this, but I'm not like this. I'm like this, but don't you dare associate me with this. And so you are just trying to get everybody to guess what you are, what your panel is. Are you the friends skipping in the jungle, or are you the raccoon eating trash? Let's see how we can guess that. Again, party game, so light, though there are some adult-ish images in the game, so they say it plays 13 and up. WizKids is releasing the game Marvel Damage Control. So this is set in the Marvel universe, but you are not playing as the superheroes. Instead, you are playing as rival cleanup crews. So this is after a superhero battle has already happened, and now there's a ton of rubble and a ton of destruction, and you gotta go clean it all up. But you are trying to find and secure dangerous artifacts and technologies that are buried in the rubble. So it's a deck building game, but the way you get new cards is there is literally just a sort of a pile of cards on the table, and you are playing crew members from your deck, and those crew members will allow you to have different actions, like flip a card to take it, or do different things like that. And so and then the cards you can get for points, you can add to your deck, that sort of thing. So I like the theme of that for sure, of just like, we gotta clean up Captain America ruining this Chase Bank again. We gotta go clean up for Captain America here. It plays 2 to 4 players in 30 minutes, and a fun, different theme. WizKids is also releasing the game Your Best Life to retail. So this is a flip and write game, but the thing that attracted me to it is it plays 1 to 8 players, and you can either play it as a couple or as a single individual. And when you play as a couple, you will have shared goals for your couple, because it is a game that simulates life. You are trying to make decisions like, are we going to party, or are we going to have kids? Are we going to move? Are we going to try to buy a house, or are we going to grow our family? And so you are making those decisions. As cards flip up, you are choosing what tracks to cross off and what to focus your life on. And, that might be too real for some people, but also is a fun way to live a fake life here in this game. You can make different decisions than you made in your actual life, or you can make the same decisions because your life is dope. You love your life and you want to simulate it in a board game. And so yeah, it's just it's you can do all different sorts of stuff, but you're just trying to gain happiness in any way you can. And that's a nice message, and that's the last game I have on this list. So, let that be the end of the video. Enjoy your life. Seek happiness. That's why I'm doing board game stuff, because it makes me happy, and I like doing board game media stuff. So I'm happy to be here in the space. Those are 25 of the best games hitting retail in the month of May 2023. I hope you found something you like. I always try to include all different types of games, heavy games, party games, family games, that sort of stuff, so you can find something that you are interested in. If you want to support me and this series, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/GrantsGameRex, and there's some fun perks on there. So yeah, again, and thanks for liking and subscribing and all that sort of stuff. It helps for sure, and it keeps me motivated to keep doing more, I hope you're having a great May, and I hope you're getting to play a lot of games, and I hope this helped you find a new one. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex.